All right. What's up, Abraham? Super happy to have you on, man. You just finished the Cruel Jewel 100, and I kind of looked at your Instagram profile a little bit. You're a Christian, you're an ultra runner, you like doing hard stuff. Um, and there's probably a lot of other stuff I don't know about. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah. Name's Abraham Bejil. I'm from West Texas. So Midland, Texas. Most people can identify West Texas from Friday Night Lights. When I say Midland, Odessa, it doesn't really ring a bell. But if I say Friday Night Lights, everyone knows where that's at
Yeah.
from the movie Friday Night Lights. But born and raised in San Angelo, Texas, so not far from where I'm at now, and just been living out here in the flat country, honestly.
Yeah, I was looking out, like I look on all trails because I'm looking for race places to put races on a lot. I didn't really see any trails over in that area where you live. What's that like
No,
not having really anywhere to train on?
it's tough. So I have the nearest trails that are really trails are probably 45 minutes away from me, out in Big Spring State Park, Big Spring, Texas. And then the next true challenging trails that are actual trails are in Guadalupe Peak.
Yeah.
That's about, I think, 3.5 hours from here. And so that's a drive. So I've done that before. I'll take off Friday, or I've done where I've taken off Friday at night, camp, and then start doing a full day of just trails all Saturday out there. I actually set an FKT out there at Guadalupe Peak.
Really?
Yeah, back in January of this year. I don't know if you ever been to Guadalupe Peak.
No, I haven't gotten the chance to get out there.
So beautiful area. It's the highest peak in all of Texas. I think it's around 8,800 feet is the highest point, and it is it's absolutely gorgeous scenery when you get to the top. But typically, it takes most people 6 hours to get to the top and back, and it's a round trip is about 8.4 mile round trip. So I wanted to see if I could get in 4 loops in one day, um, from sunrise to sunset, or 12 hours basically. And so I got 3 loops done in about 9.5 hours, and my legs were shot. It was 26 miles I already had done and quite a bit of elevation gain. So I just called it quits. But first time anyone's done that, so I went and set an FKT. So I'm gonna try to go out there and do the true 4 loops next time, which would be basically a 50K and about um, 12 to, I think it'd be 50K and 15,000 feet of gain.
Wow. What's the
Yeah,
gain per run up there?
it's about 3,500 feet
Wow.
per 8,000 per 8 mile loop.
That's pretty
Yeah,
intense, man.
it is. It's a lot. So that helped me a lot with my cruel jewel training.
Yeah, I bet. Because what's Cruel Jewel? It's 100 miles. What's the total elevation gain of that?
So they advertised 33,000 feet total. My watch captured about 28,000 feet over
Okay.
that 103 mile distance. I was stopping others just to check what their watches were, and some of them were closer to the 33,000, some were a lot lower. So I imagine it's probably around 30,000. And that's 33,000 is comparable to the Hard Rock 100, which is also 100 miles, 33,000 feet.
Wow.
So that's why this is a qualifier race for Hard Rock 100, which is really the reason I did this race.
Yeah.
I want to go to the Hard Rock 100, and I needed a qualifier.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty sweet, man. So Cruel Jewel, it's what state is that in?
that's in Georgia. It's in the very northern part of the Chattahoochee Mountains. Beautiful area, very dense forest. It's almost like you're in a rainforest. I was in awe of uh, the forest there, the scenery, but it was humid and thick, muggy air. There's just no wind that flows in that forest because it's so dense. And so when you're just walking or running through those trails, it's like you're trying to fight this big wave, thick blanket of heat and moisture just hitting you all day long.
Yeah. What was the temperature out there or the feel like temperature with the humidity, do you know?
It said we lucked out. It said that it was around, I think, 80 degrees when we started at 12 noon. It felt probably around 85-ish degrees. But it was just muggy. I
Yeah.
don't know how best to say it better than that, but just as thick and muggy as it was. My issue is I just kept sweating and sweating and sweating. So I keep wiping the sweat out of my face, and I thought my face was going to get raw because I kept on wiping it and wiping it and wiping it. And then there's flies that are just chasing you the entire time. You're trying to swat them away. So that was kind of annoying, but um, yeah, it was first day. Um, so we start at 12 noon all day long. It's just muggy, hot. You're sweaty and wet. But that evening is when it actually cooled down to close to 50 degrees.
Wow.
And that felt great. That
Yeah.
felt really good.
That's a
Um,
huge drop.
yeah, it was a huge drop, but I can tell you it was very welcoming for everybody. And then the next day is when it was this beautiful overcast day.
Yeah.
So we were really fortunate to have that kind of weather all day long, the second day, all day. And then that second evening around, I don't know, maybe I finished at 10:30 at night, the second night. And I want to say maybe started raining around 7:30, and it was pouring down cold rain, cold, frigid rain. Um, so you're going from all these extremes of hot and muggy down to cold at 50 degrees, then it warms back up a little, and then you get this frigid rain that second night. And I made an amateur mistake. I I typically would pack a windbreaker or a rain jacket in my vest,
Yeah.
and I packed it with all my gear, but I didn't put it in my vest at any of the aid stations. And that night, I had already passed the final aid station. And so when it started raining, I had no rain jacket, and my body was getting really really cold from all the rain. And I was telling myself I better not get hypothermia on these last 8 to 10 miles of this hard race, because I was stupid and forgot to put a rain jacket in my vest. But so I kind of had to brainstorm real quick, and I just told myself, just run as fast as you can this last 8 to 10 miles, get that core temp up, and suffer through it. It's best I could say. You got to suffer through that last part.
Yeah.
So I did, and that worked, because I was really starting to shake. It was getting cold.
Yeah.
I'd never experienced anything like that.
Really.
Yeah, getting that frigid, and you're still running, and you're starting to shake, and your jaw's kind of chattering a little bit because you're that cold. After the race, I mean, I was really cold. My wife had to kind of hurry to get to the hotel or our cabin so that I could get into the shower and get into a hot shower, because I was really really cold. Still
Yeah.
wearing just the shorts and a t-shirt, but it
Wow.
was all wet.
Yeah. I've heard that when you push your body that far, your internal temperature and everything just gets thrown off, and you get super cold real easily. So
Yeah, yeah. It was something new for me. It's definitely taught me never forget my rain jacket.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's really neat, man. I appreciate you sharing all that. I want to know, like, where did this whole thing start? Where did your running journey start?
Uh, so the running journey honestly started when I sort of hit rock bottom with uh, just I had an alcohol problem in life,
Yeah.
and I was using that as just using alcohol honestly as my fix to for anxiety and other life problems. So in 2018, it kind of hit rock bottom, and realized I had to make a better choice
Yeah.
and better decisions in life. And so I was at a men's ministry, and a buddy of mine there they said, let's do this 5K challenge. And to me, 5K was just like, I can't do 5K. I can't do 3 miles. So they said, well, now you can start, little by little. We'll text each other, kind of keep each other accountable. And so I started, meeting up with these guys. And the first time they said, hey, let's meet up at 5. So I'm not a runner. I didn't know that you got to wake up early to go run at 5 in the morning. So I'm texting these guys at 4:30, like, hey, where are we going to meet? It's 4:30 p.m. I'm like, hey, where are we going to meet to go run? They're like, we ran at 5 this morning. I
Oh
said, oh,
wow.
I thought y'all meant 5 p.m.
That's funny, man.
So they're like, no, we run at 5 in the morning. And so I had to start getting up with these guys and start running early in the morning.
Yeah.
And so that was a change. But you know, just that accountability of knowing, hey, I got to get up because there's some guys I'm going to meet and go run with help me to get up and go meet. And then I would run as much as I could, start off like a mile and then 2 miles. And then that turned into 3. And finally, I signed up to do a race. So that was still 2018. And I started running and somewhere around September of 2018 and did my first 10K in November, I believe. And after that, I don't know if it was a 5K or 10K, but after that race, I told my buddy, I'm like, hey, I want to do a 50K. And he's just like, what? A 50K? And I'm like, yeah, I want to do a 50K. And he's like, well, there's one in March, the Crazy Desert
Yeah.
50K. So in March of 2019, I started training from November all the way to March. And mind you, I've only been running like a 5K distance or so.
Yeah.
And
What'd your training look like going into that first 50K?
honestly, it was really just like one of those training plans you download online, that kind of you find those 50K training plans. So it was mostly for me was about just getting mileage. It wasn't
Yeah.
real structured. It was a structured online plan, but it wasn't structured for me. Um, and so it was really just a gradually increasing mileage every week is all it was. Um, and so I did that plan. I followed it to the T. And I don't even remember where it was just a real generic basic plan you find online.
Yeah.
Followed that. And like I said, my buddy Rob he's the president of our Midland Run crew here. He's the one that was kind of helping me along the way um, to kind of follow that plan, and because he wanted to run it with me, so we both ran that 50K together. So in March, I ran my first 50K, um, and I don't recall what the time was. It was somewhere between 5 and 5.5 hours or
Oh
so,
yeah.
somewhere on there.
That's a pretty good time. Yeah.
At San Angelo. And so, yeah, that was my first 50K and my first. So I hadn't even run a marathon yet. I just went straight into ultras. And that's just, it took off from there.
Yeah.
Kept on running ultras ever since then.
Yeah. That's sweet, man. What are some of the ultras you've done? I was looking at those photos you sent over. It looked like you did quite a few big ultras. What are some of those?
Yeah, I've done quite a few now since then. Uh, I started increasing my distance going to 100K. So I've done Crazy Desert 100K, Bandera 100K.
Yeah.
I did that one. I think next was I did a virtual during COVID, the Possum's Revenge virtual 69 mile. So a buddy of mine, it was during my birthday. I told my wife for my birthday, and it was at December 19th was my birthday of 20. I want to say it was 2019, maybe it was 2020. No, it was 2020, obviously COVID.
Yeah.
So it was December 2020 of COVID. I told my wife for my birthday, I want to go run uh, the 69-mile virtual race. So a buddy of mine named Steven, he said, hey, I'll go do it with you. So we went to San Angelo, went to the crazy desert trails there, and we ran it all day. I think it took us 17 hours to do it there in those trails. And it was December, and it was it was cold when it started in the morning, then it got hot, then it got cold again. Uh, it was a it was a roller coaster ride of a virtual race for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so that I think that was my longest distance was 69 miles before I decided I want to do 100 miles. Um, and so then I switched to um, doing the Leadville 100,
Yeah.
and so I think it was 2020. Yeah, it was 2021. I said I'm going to go ahead and put in my name for the Leadville 100. First time I put in for the lottery. Didn't think I would get it. Got in first year,
You got the
and
beginner look right there.
yeah, yeah. And just I'm fast forwarding, but even Moab 240, I put in for the lottery first time and got it as well.
Wow.
So I don't know if I'm cursed or lucky, but
Sounds like you got the Lord's favor or something.
so Leadville was my next big ultra,
Yeah.
and so I worked. I got a training plan off Training Peaks, and then who was done by Kevin Goldberg. I don't know if you know if you've heard him, but he's recently been really popular lately in the ultra scene. He did Cocodona 250 this past Cocodona in May, and I think he got top 10 somewhere. But he built that plan, and I reached out a couple of times to him back and forth during that training, just asked some questions. But I followed his plan. It was a 20-week plan. So the thing about myself and during all these ultras is I've been sort of self-coaching myself the
Yeah.
entire time, and just trying. I'm very disciplined, and just naturally I'm real strict about what I do and how I do it.
Yeah.
Just very intentional, and so I followed that plan to the T as best as I could. Asked a couple questions here and there, just self-guided for the most part, and got to Leadville and finished it 29 hours and 15 minutes.
Wow.
That was my first 100, and that was I remember at the finish I was done. I was glad to be done because I was suffering through it. I mean I've learned a lot since then, and now the 100-mile distance is much easier for me. But literally after the race, we had to go sit back in these chairs that they put out to wait to get our buckles. And I was telling my wife and my crew that was there, I said, I don't ever want to do 100 miles
Yeah.
because it was brutal. You know, my legs were shot. I could barely walk. I couldn't bend over. They were swelling up, but it's, I pushed my body beyond its limits because mentally I said, I'm going to finish. I don't care what it takes. And I finished, but my body was beyond stressed. It was obliterated because I did what I could from what I knew how to do, and which wasn't much at the time. I didn't know how to train properly.
Yeah.
So,
What were you doing for going into Leadville? What'd that look like?
I didn't do any strength training. And I know for a fact that's 100% a major issue back then in 21. Was why I was just, my legs were so weak and shot after the race. So I did no strength.
Yeah.
It was all running. Like I said, Kevin Goldberg had this plan, which is a great plan. So it was a lot of speed from the beginning, because Leadville is a runnable course.
Yeah.
Running Leadville and Cruel Jewel, uh, Leadville seems easy now compared to
Wow.
running Cruel Jewel. Like it's I don't want to take anything away from running Leadville because Leadville's still a very difficult race, but knowing the two, Leadville's a super runnable course where Cruel Jewel is just a sufferfest all day long.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why on Kevin Goldberg's plan, it was a lot of speed for the first, I want to say, might have been the first 8 to 10 weeks, and then the last 10 to 12 weeks were all just um, getting time on feet, just running longer distances every single day, compounding some of the training. So running like a long run on a Friday, and then another long run on a Saturday, and then a short run on a Sunday. Those 3 days were very crucial in the training week, because you had a 10 mile and then a 20 mile and then another 8 mile on Sunday.
Yeah.
So just compounding that mileage day in, day out, 3 days in a row. He had a lot of that going on. So majority of the training, all speed up front, and then a lot of time on legs on the back end towards the end of the race, towards the end of the training. But since then, I did that in 2021, and then did Rocky Raccoon. So I teamed up with let me back up just a sec. But before I did Rocky Raccoon, after I did Leadville, there's so much time and commitment and really a lot of dedication that goes towards an ultra. I liked it, but I also felt selfish. Like I could use this entire race and platform to really give back to others. And
Yeah.
so after I did Leadville, I wanted to try to partner up with a nonprofit. And so actually it was that first Leadville I teamed up with the nonprofit, to be honest with you. That's right. I teamed up with the local youth organization for Leadville and raised, I think it was close to 3,500. It wasn't crazy money, but I
Yeah.
helped raise a little bit for them.
Yeah.
And then the next ultra I did right after that, which was Rocky Raccoon 100, I teamed up with Alzheimer's Association out here in West Texas, and we got to raise quite a bit. We got right under $10,000 for that
Wow. Yeah.
that charity, that organization, and so that was real fruitful for me, just knowing that I could use this crazy thing called ultra running and benefit some others in our community.
What what
And
um what moment did that spark in your mind like I can use this to help others?
uh, I don't know if there was something that sparked it. There's always, I'm sure you go out for a run and your mind just
Yeah.
wanders, and you have these thoughts. And it was during one of those runs that I was just thinking, man, why I could be using this towards something else. And it just sparked one of those runs. And so then I said, let me see who I can partner with locally. And it just took off from there. So I met with that first organization here locally, and then the second race, the Alzheimer's Foundation really helped. Alzheimer's is a huge organization nationally and worldwide, but so they had a lot of connections with the media that really helped on that particular race. So that helped spread the word and get funding and awareness for their organization. But that was for the Rocky Raccoon race in 2022 of February.
Gotcha.
Is that right? Yeah, 2022 of February. So I finished that one. That one I felt really good. So the training was self-trained again on that one with no training plan. Just I kind of took a lot of I took the different approach with strength training. I said I need to get some strength training. So I started just going to the gym and just growing up in San Angelo, I did a lot of weightlifting in high school, and I did some track in high school, mostly the 100 and 200 and 400 meters. And so I still have a decent background in strength training. So I just started to incorporate some strength. That helped tremendously on the Rocky Raccoon. So I did that one in 22 hours and I think 19 minutes or so, that
Yeah.
100 miler. So um, I noticed a big difference for sure. Obviously, no elevation gain.
Yeah.
You're not up there at 10,000, 13,000 feet, but 100 miles is 100 miles.
Yeah.
Um, I definitely felt the strength running that entire time, running 22 hours just straight. It felt great. And that was for the Alzheimer's Association. Um, so that was that one. And then Then came Leadville again,
Yeah.
um, for 2022. So Leadville, this time I teamed up with First Descents organization out
Yeah.
of Colorado. I don't know if
Okay.
you've ever heard of them.
No, I haven't.
Uh, so they provide sort of like a Make-A-Wish, but for outdoor adventures, for terminally ill patients.
Yeah.
Like if they want to climb a mountain, they want to go kayaking, they want to go skiing, that organization will help those individuals and pay their trip, get them to achieve that climb, that whatever that goal is that they have that they've not been able to achieve. And so I teamed up with them for Leadville in 2022, and I think we raised close to around $4,000 for them,
Wow.
and and I didn't do as great. I achieved my goal for Leadville 2022 is 28 hours. I really thought I could go faster, but um, I was still happy with
Hey, 28 hours for a mountain
it.
race is pretty good. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Just before that, I did the Silver Rush 50
okay.
in July in Leadville as well. That was a really fun course. Just run, and it's a different course altogether. It's not the same trails. So
Yeah.
it's a different set of trails that they have you on. But Leadville, the Lifetime organization there that puts on the race, they do a really good job of just the putting it on, the volunteers, the venue itself is just they do a really great job of doing that.
Yeah.
So that brings us then to that's 2022, and then I think in October I did the Sky Island 50K. I don't know if you ever done that one in
Is that a newer one?
Sky Island. No, it's been I don't know how many years they've had it, but they do it out there in
Yeah, I heard
Fort
about
Davis
it.
Mountains.
Yeah.
Um, so that one's been going on. The name's changed. It's Spectrum Racing now, I believe.
Yeah.
They've changed the name a couple different times, but it was a couple out of Austin, a husband and wife, that started it, and and then they I think there's also, I can't recall, but there's a um, an elite runner that also is part of it, that
Okay.
part owner of that. Um, can't recall his last name, but so I did that 50K. It's a brutal 50K. They even tell you if this is
Yeah.
your first 50K, don't do it. Uh, so Fort Davis, man, there's just a lot of rock. I mean, it's like you need to be on a stair climber to train for that race.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful scenery, beautiful venue. The mountains are just gorgeous out there. No one thinks of West Texas having mountains, but come down to Fort Davis, Big Bend area, and it is a different. Um, it's just different altogether, just the whole feel of it, but
Yeah.
beautiful. But did that 50K, and after that, um, uh, started. What was it? What did I do after that? Did Big Bend 50 miler. I think I placed fifth on that one. Was right behind Robbie Ballinger on that one. I was trying to keep up with him, but
Yeah.
the guy's pretty fast. Uh, so yeah, I did that Big Bend 50, and I've done a bunch of other smaller races in between, some halves and some. I think I've done so far one actual marathon,
Yeah.
uh, one road marathon, one trail marathon. It doesn't intrigue me very much to do road.
Yeah.
I like speed, and I've done even like a 130 half marathon, but I'm not. I don't. I don't really enjoy it
Yeah.
like I do the trails.
Yeah. I'm right there with you on that one.
Uh, but yeah, after the Big Bend 50, so I teamed up with a coach for the first time, because I got into Moab 240,
Yeah.
and so I said I got to get a coach because you sure I've got myself this far on 100 miles, but it's 200s are a different beast. So
Yeah.
I got with Mike McKnight, low carb runner.
Really?
Yeah. So he's
Hold
my
on.
coach.
I wanna talk about this real quick. We gotta stop
Okay.
on this. For those who are listening, this guy, Mike McKnight, his coach, won the Cocodona 250. He started out, he was like way back. He wasn't there, and he was way behind people in the lead. And
He
then
was
he
in
came
70th,
in
I think 70th place at the time.
70th place.
Yeah.
And then this guy swooped in at the end of this 250-mile race and won it. So I just want to give some background about this guy. This isn't just McKnight, his coach. This is the McKnight right here.
They
How'd you
called
get
him
McKnight? Does he have coaching services, I guess, or
he does, he
yeah.
does. You can get on his website. I think it's the lowcarbrunner.com.
Yeah.
Uh, but he, he trains a lot of people that are mostly wanting to. I mean, he'll train just about anybody, I would think, but most people go to him because he's basically the 200-miler king,
Yeah.
if you will.
Oh yeah.
He did the Triple Crown and won first place at every single 200.
Wow.
Yeah, all three 200 milers he won first place at all of them when he did the Triple Crown.
You want to
Uh,
explain what that is real quick for people that don't know?
yeah, the Triple Crown is you're going to do the three 200 milers. Back when he did it, it was I'm gonna I don't want to botch uh, the third 200 mile because I know it's the Bigfoot 200, the Moab 240, and I think is it the Wasatch 200.
I I,
Um,
I don't know what the I can't think of it off the top of my head.
um, yeah, I'm trying to pull it up real quick just so I can.
I watched a,
Um,
a documentary of a guy, Rob, who was training for Ultra. I watched his documentary of him doing the Triple Crown.
okay, here it is. So it's the Tahoe 200,
Yeah.
and then the Bigfoot 200, and then Moab 240.
Yeah.
And so when he did it, they had them 60 days apart.
Wow.
So you would have a Tahoe 200-mile race that you would do 60 days in between the next 200 race.
Wow.
And then the final race being Bigfoot, Moab 240. So just thinking of only having 60 days between 200 miler is unthinkable.
Yeah.
Now it's longer because they had to change the Tahoe to make it earlier in June. It shows now. So Tahoe 200 is in June. Uh, well, no, they've got it back to June, August, and October. Yeah, so they still have pretty close to 60 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he won first place at all three of those back to back. And I think he came back and I don't know if he did it the second year again, but yeah, he's known for his 200-mile distances. And then like you just said, Cocodona 250.
Yeah.
They were calling him the Dark McKnight
Yeah.
because he was just running throughout the night, just trying to catch up. And so you wouldn't see anything. You just hear this guy coming by, I'm sure.
No, really.
He's passing you in the middle of the night. You don't even know who's passing you. Uh, yeah, he's unreal. He's a different beast, different animal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I chose him specifically because I really wanted the best in the 200 arena.
Yeah.
And so this will be my first 200. He started coaching me in February of this year.
And
So he coached me.
was the Moab 240, has that already happened or is that in the future?
That's this October.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I started with him this February so that he could start training me this entire year. And I told him I wanted to do Cruel Jewel before I do Moab. Um, and honestly, I had picked Cocodona 250 first as my 200 miler race, but I had an engagement with that I didn't realize was already booked, so I had to change it to Moab 240.
Wow. Yeah.
So
I had a guy who finished that race on a podcast like might have been 2 years ago or a year ago. And that's a pretty intense race I hear. So
Yeah, I mean, Cocodona, all the 200s, they're all intense.
yeah,
Just you're really pushing yourself to your limits. Uh, I mean, people are having to really um, think outside of the box. They really have to, um, you know, I don't know how best to say it, but they're on a different level. And I want to feel that. I want to know that I can continue to push myself day in and day out because right now I run 100 miles straight. And as soon as go to sleep, there's no way I'm running the next day.
yeah,
There's no way. My legs they won't have it. So I'm thinking to myself, well, how am I going to do that? Is it that I don't go to sleep,
yeah.
just keep moving? And from what I'm understanding is that you don't sleep that long. Otherwise, your body will go into a recovery state, and then you're pretty much perfect.
Okay. So, with you training for this 200-mile race and you're trying to figure out the sleep and everything, I don't want to take anything away from McKnight, but what are some things that you can share that you feel comfortable sharing that you're learning about training for this 200-mile race?
You know, we I haven't even talked to Mike specifically about the logistics of running the 200 mile.
Yeah,
This whole time we've just been talking about just training in general for initially for 100 mile, but um, you know, just from what I've learned and watched from others racing these, it's a matter of just taking care of your feet first and foremost. Most people will DNF because they didn't take care of their feet, and I mean that's like number one priority. Take care of your feet. Constantly be eating as you would any other ultra race. The gut issues are real common with a lot of people. I'm real fortunate for now. I've never had any really gut issues.
wow,
I mean, I can just put down whatever.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. I mean, you put me at the aid station. I was eating this last one, a hot dog, a hamburger. I had a ramen noodles. I told him throw some hot dogs in my ramen noodles. uh, and then right after, I was eating Oreos and chips. So
Yeah.
um, you really shouldn't eat. I was trying to stay away from the sugar, but it was late at night, and I was just kind of like craving an Oreo. So I said, "I'm gonna screw it. I'm gonna have an Oreo." But I really didn't have any other sugar other than that. Uh,
I feel like all ultra runners, that is just like that is a very popular thing to where you just like combine the weirdest things all together and it just works.
yeah, you get there, you're tired, and it was late too. I had already been running. I already ran 50 miles, and I'm like, I'm starving. I'm tired of spring energy. That's what I typically take is spring.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of that gel right now. And I'm like, I just need something different. So yeah, I just told the guy, he's like, you want a grilled cheese? I'm like, yeah. Can you put ham in there? He's like, yeah. I said, can you add a hot dog too? He goes, yeah. So
That's
he was
funny.
just mixing it up for me. He's like, dude, you can eat. I'm like, man, I'm hungry. But yeah, as far as the 200, again, I think it's just, again, you're going to have to eat constantly fueling and hydrating. But I saw a lot of people mostly sleeping around 30 minutes to an hour,
Yeah.
and then they'd go back out running again, um, you know, 6 hours or so, and then they would take another nap. So it was these really short naps so that they would get some rest, but not enough that their body would start to get into this recovery state,
Yeah.
like you will. And so, I mean, we're Mike and I are going to probably have a pretty long discussion on the logistics of running 100. I
Yeah.
know he does want me to do some a lot of night runs where he wants me just to be really sleep deprived. So I know we've discussed that before. Just he wants me to work all day and then just go out and run like at 10 o'clock at night, run till 5 in the morning, just being sleep deprived.
Wow. That's
uh, I mean, you
yeah.
gotta do it in training and rather than testing it out there and at race day. So when you do 100 miles, you're always going to be sleep deprived because you're running 30 hours straight. But I know. So one of my pacers is her name is Andrea Moore. She's from Dallas. I don't know if
Yeah,
you've
I've
uh,
that sounds super familiar.
and
Andrea
then
Moore.
some is her handle on Instagram.
Yeah, let me look it up here real quick. She sounds super familiar. And I know her if she's with Dallas Dirt Runners, which she is.
Yeah, she's just moving now to
Yeah, Andrea Moore.
yeah. So
She's
she just did Cocodona
yeah,
250.
she did.
Um, and I was listening to her. So we have uh, Michael have these discussions inside his coaching group, and so she kind of talked about her experience, and she said she only slept like 27 minutes max.
Wow. Yeah,
Every sleep session, it was like no more, not even 30 minutes, and so she didn't have very much sleep at all. Um, and But she's going to be pacing me for Moab.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to have her there, with her experience in that too. And Mike's going to try to pace me. Unless he races Moab.
Yeah.
If he races Moab, then obviously he's going to be up in first place somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
You don't want to try to
uh,
stick with them?
yeah, no, I'd probably be burnt out on day one. These elites, I don't know how they do it. I know they suffer, but their body can just suffer a lot more than ours can, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think the new record now was Jeff Browning set it. It was Mike McKnight had it, and then Courtney Dauwalter broke his record, and then Jeff Browning broke their record last year. I think so. Moab is now 57 hours
Wow.
is the completion time. That's ridiculous.
2.5 days.
Yeah, it's just straight running. You can see his documentary on YouTube, Browning's race.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's those guys. I don't know how they do it, but I'm just excited just to finish it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's super exciting to have that ahead. What
Yeah.
I'm curious. What do you do for a living?
So I work at a hospital here locally in Midland, Texas. I'm their vice president of facility services. So
Oh,
basically, I oversee most all the non-clinical um, departments. So our facility maintenance, our construction and design, our police department, our housekeeping department, our food nutrition, our clinical engineering, which is a department that maintains all of our medical equipment.
yeah.
So I oversee those departments, and just like all of our properties is in general for the hospital.
Yeah, that's cool,
Um,
man. What are the hours
yeah.
like with I'm just curious like with your training.
So I'm a typical, like, 8 to 5 ish
Okay.
Monday through Friday work week.
Yeah.
So um, I have to get up early and do my runs. And with doing long runs, I'm going to get up fairly early so I can start like at 5, do my run. And if it's a long run, like maybe 14 miles in the morning, then I'll try to get that run done and even try to get a strength training right after. Um, but my consistency is run and then strength train right after, come home, shower, get ready, go to work.
Yeah.
I don't want to do any running or strength training after work. Don't want to do it. Can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I get home and I just, as soon as my butt hits the couch, that's it. There's no getting up.
Yeah.
I've done it. I've done it, and I will do it if I have to, but I don't like to.
It's important to have those times of rest. Very important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's extremely important, and I think I got into coaching this year, and I got my ultra running coaching certification through USCA, and I've you know got a lot of data and information through that training program, and yeah, recovery is definitely key. I want my rest. I need my rest. And even if I don't get a good 8 hours of sleep, I won't get up and go run. I will go and sleep in, and then I'm just stuck trying to get a run done during lunch, on a treadmill, which I don't like,
Yeah.
and or go into run after work, um, and trying to get a strength training done after that as well.
Mhm.
That's the hardest part about ultra running is getting the ultra running done and the strength training done, because
And
you're
the
not just
sleep.
yeah, and getting in your sleep and going to work and getting family time.
Yeah,
So
it's a
yeah,
balance.
it's a struggle. I'm having to help my athletes to learn how to balance that, and it's not easy. Everyone's got a different balance, and everyone's got a different lifestyle. So
Yeah,
that's probably the hardest thing for ultra running is just balancing all those aspects.
yeah. And like what, so as far as your time management for your coaching program, when are you doing your coaching stuff?
It's pretty much after hours. I do a lot of texting. I'll do phone calls during the day, and talk to my athletes. But every Monday I ask them to send me updates of how things went for the previous week. And then, but It's a lot of texting, a lot of phone calls, really. And that just happens throughout all day, even Saturdays, Sundays. I
Yeah.
just tell them to call me, text me. I'm fairly easy with that right now. I don't have I've got 5 athletes right now. I had 6, and I'm trying to keep it minimal. I don't want 20 or 30
Yeah.
because I can't handle all of that with my life balance now. So I'm trying to keep it just enough where I can help others achieve their goals, because they see these finish line photos, right? And they want to experience that. But they don't see the 30, 40 weeks prior to
Yeah.
that it took to get there. And now they're seeing it in training and they're like, I'm not sure I want this.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's the part for them is you got to be really driven to want to achieve that goal if that's what you really want. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think that's the biggest thing is keeping other people that are trying, because I've tried to do coaching in the past, and that's the biggest struggle, the biggest challenge is keeping those people motivated.
mm-hmm.
And I remember back when I first started and I struggled with motivation. You talked about how it took accountability to keep you going when you started running for your first 5K,
Yeah,
Um, and I think that's a big struggle for, a bunch of people when starting is, you know, staying not motivated but consistent and having good quality at the same time.
yeah. I want them to stay consistent. They can miss some workouts here and there, but if it starts to be where they're missing, 50% of their workout, or really even 30% of the workout is not beneficial. But if they're missing and they're missing consistently every week, that's never good.
Yeah.
You want to have a talk with them and say, is this what you really want? I know you say that's what you want, but is it what you truly want? Because if you want something, you will do obviously whatever it takes to get it.
Mm,
If you truly want it, you'll prioritize it, right?
that's a good
Um,
word right there, man. Like, not just for training, but everything. As a Christian, that's a good word as a Christian, like with our faith. Like
yeah,
if you really want, the kingdom of God and the goodness of God, you have to give it everything and keep going with it no matter what.
yeah, you have to prioritize him,
Yeah.
your faith, family, and fitness in that order.
Yeah.
And if you don't want a goal, you think you want it, but you don't want to put in the work for it. Maybe it's time to rethink your priorities.
Mm. If you could find a
Or
book on faith, family, and fitness, please send it to me.
there's probably some out there. I haven't read any.
Yeah.
There's a lot about fitness and there's a lot about just ownership. I like Jocko Willing has a lot of great books.
Jocko
Uh,
Go.
yeah, he's got a lot of good leadership books.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go,
A guy
as he
a guy you
says.
might like. Have you ever heard of Chad Wright?
I
37
think I've heard
Project?
that name. Yeah, yes.
He did Cocodona. recently off of 6 weeks of training. Um,
Wow. Yes,
but
I heard about him. Yeah.
yeah, this guy, it's so rare because I'm always looking for people that are into fitness, faith, and into preserving that quality family time. Um, this guy has it all. He's a former Navy SEAL, loves God. He talks about it on his podcast, and he does like crazy ultra marathon stuff all the time. And
With
it's
minimal
called
training, huh?
Three of Seven Project. If you want to listen to it, it's a cool podcast. But this guy, he's got it all tied up in one bag, and I feel like that's so rare to find nowadays. Is people that have the faith, they like to do crazy fitness stuff, and they also prioritize like their family and personal relationships.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, it's not easy. It's
Yeah,
not easy. There's we had to do a combo on this last race, a combo vacation slash race, because I'm like, well, if we're there, let me see if we can incorporate a vacation while we're there.
yeah,
Because I don't want them to, my wife, I had no pacer on this race. I had no crew on this race. This was going to be my first sort of minimalistic Andrew Glaze type of race. Um,
yeah,
and so I went, my wife and my daughter is 12, and they were my crew. And and I even made it to where I said, all right, I don't need you to crew me at night. I will run throughout the night. I'm good with, I'll eat whatever's at the aid stations. I don't need anything. And so we did, and that worked out great. But afterwards, I wanted to, we went to Destin, Florida,
yeah,
for our vacation right after. But it was hard because my legs were just really swollen. They were taking on a lot of fluid. They were really shot, but finally, I think it was by Wednesday they were better. Um, so I was walking around with just really big legs.
yeah,
But yeah, you got to try to incorporate the family with this, fitness journey that you're trying to be on. So my wife is really accepting of that, and I'm glad she is, because she knows I'm kind of crazy. I
yeah,
like to do these difficult things and put myself through some crazy stuff. But she does a really good job of crewing me. She's my uh, chief, my crew chief, and my chief executive mom, and so and my best friend.
yeah. That's awesome, man. It's really cool to hear. Yeah, I'm so glad that I got to talk to somebody like you, man. You're such a cool person, and it's really cool to hear, about a little bit about your faith, your family, and your ultra running journey. And I just really appreciate that, man. For you to take your time out of your day, you could have been spending with your family or whatever, to come on the podcast. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, and it was definitely great talking to you.
Oh
Really
yeah.
loved it.
Is there before we end it, is there any last thing you'd like anybody to know that's listening?
Hmm. If you have a goal, and you really want to, achieve that goal, um, prioritize everything correctly in your life. And by prioritize, like we talked about just earlier, is prioritize God first and foremost. He'll give you that strength and endurance that you want, and that you're going to need to finish a race. So just prioritize your faith, and then your family, and then lastly your fitness,
Yeah,
and everything will fall into place.
yeah. I really appreciate all the advice, man. And I'm gonna put like your Instagram and stuff in the description where people can find you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
well,
All
thanks
right.
for coming
Thanks a
on, man.
lot.
I appreciate it.